Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Marriage is Tougher Than Woodpecker Lips podcast. This is Brian.
And I'm Paul. We'd like to welcome you to a community meant for the men of the world to share our thoughts and perspectives on marriage.
We can learn from each other's experiences and help each other be better husbands. Now, let's get right into the show.
Hey there, we appreciate you tuning in to the show. If this is your first time, welcome. If it is not, we appreciate you coming back. Today's episode, we are going to talk about managing the details. In short, are the little things in your marriage worth tackling and beneficial?
And make sure you hit us up on all the socials. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. We have a website, marriageistougher.com. On the website, you can request to be a guest. Let us know if you have topic ideas, and you can also find there all of our archived episodes. If there are any conversations that you'd like to continue having after you listen to an episode, you can do that over on Instagram, and we promise we will get back to every single comment made there. And so just be a part of the community and let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what you'd like us to talk about in the future. Let's get into the show. So, managing the details. I'm going to start off by telling a little story. It goes back to my first career as a restaurant manager. But my manager was trying to tell me that as long as we manage the details in the restaurant, the rest of the things will take care of themselves, right? And what's our main concern in a business? It's to increase revenue, right? And he was basically trying to tell me that by managing the details, increasing the revenue will happen, right? And that's all the little things like making sure the guest's food comes out the right way, it looks the right way, it's at the right temperature, right? Making sure their drinks are filled. If you ever worked in the restaurant industry, this is not new to you, but for people who don't, these are the thoughts that a server might have. Um, uh, I don't know. Making sure that they don't have to wait too long until they're greeted when they first sit down, making sure they don't have to wait too long to get something fixed if they have a problem. So, that sort of what may seem minuscule to some, making sure all those little things are taken care of, provide a path to accomplish the greater good. And so I had this thought of how could I apply this to marriage? And would this work in my marriage? So let's have a talk about that.
Little things. They're often the things overlooked, those things that are so everyday. We might be on autopilot, or we may not even see that they are important because they're just done because they have to be.
Mm.
But I think if you, specifically to this episode, if there are many little things that you neglect to do, then you feel like something is off. Right. So I think it's important to do an evaluation of your marriage, the things that you can help out with, those things that one of you just does, and really take stock in those and make sure that they're taken care of so that the quote unquote bigger things can get the proper attention when they do pop up.
Yeah, there was something that you said just there that sparked a thought in my mind, and that is her perspective of when all those little things aren't managed and when those start stacking up, right? And so this goes back to communication, right? It's beneficial for either spouse to talk about when these things aren't happening or where they might be lacking. So it doesn't ever get to that point where there's, 22 little things that are not getting done or not being managed appropriately. Um, but I think I'm speaking from a place of experience here that my wife needed help in the home. And for a decent amount of our relationship, I wasn't there for it, right? Because I was doing other things like working and trying to run a business, and specifically when I was first trying to get it off the ground. And then I was always coming up with a new idea of something else I could be doing. And I was just taking all of this time away from home. And, at some point she just sat me down and was like, look,
Mhm.
I need you here. Right. And it was all of the little things, but it was also for her. So I had to make that my perspective.
When you say for her, talk a little bit more about that.
So what I mean is she felt that she was lacking my affection,
Mm,
because I was just gone all the time. And then when I was home, I was just exhausted.
mhm.
Right. So this means that we weren't having conversations. If something was wrong with our marriage, we weren't talking about it. Right. We were just going to bed mad, frustrated. Right. And then, like typical me, I would just get up and start the cycle all over again. There was a time where I was leaving the house at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then not getting home until like 7 or 8 at night. What does that leave time for? Let me tell
Right.
you, nothing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And now, so just to put myself in her shoes, she also worked, was managing all the kids, was managing the household, and I'm just like a ghost.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And so when she sat me down and I really started to take it in and realize what it was that she was experiencing, I started to make changes. I'm not going to say I'm perfect by any means now, but I think that she understands that I'm putting more effort into our life and have started to give up some of the things that I could even say thought that I wanted, and some of the things that I did and or do want.
That's good. I think you said something. You said our life,
Mhm.
right? I think managing the details, we can overlook things that are not my tasks
Mhm.
or are um, not important to me. But if we look holistically at what happens in our marriage in the details, like, are we even talking about the details, first of all? Like, do
Right.
we set time to be intentional and figure out what those details are first? That's what
And
we need
whose
to do.
responsibility they are,
Yeah,
if not a joint responsibility.
right. Absolutely. If we, yeah, if we focus on what is for us, what's ours, what, how do we make this better for our marriage? Not for my life, not for your life, but our lives together. Um, that gives weight to the details, and they may seem there might be more importance to them um, when you look from that way. I like that.
Yeah. And there's so many details that need to be managed, right? And it's funny because maybe I did think this way, but there's this school of thought that a wife's well, I'll say a stay-at-home wife's life is easier than a man that goes to work every day. And that if you really put any thought of it into it at all, that's not the case, right? So you're talking about all these little details, managing the kids. How many kids do you have? And then if any of them are in school, getting them to school, getting them up for school, right? The fundraisers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, the homework, the 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 meetings with the teachers, right? Like all these little things just for school. And I think there are too many husbands that make the mistake of just assuming that, oh, you know what? My wife's got it. Do you know whether or not she's struggling with it? Has she said that to you? Can you just see it in how she's operating? Does she look drained? Right? I mean, I would imagine more times than not, a wife would probably communicate that she needs help in that area. And rather than just making and believing the excuse that, oh, well, I worked, I'm tired, like I shouldn't have to do this. Put a list together about who accomplishes more in the day, you know?
An honest list, not
Yes.
a
Yeah,
perfect
yeah.
scenario, all the things that I could be doing at work when you don't have that. I mean, if we're thinking, I'm going to tangent a little bit on this for sure, but even if it's just a you get to drive to your job, right? That is whatever amount of time that you get by yourself.
Mhm.
A stay-at-home parent does not get any time by themselves. That that's all I'm going to say about that. Think about it. If you have
Yeah.
a 25-minute drive, you get to choose what you want to do in those 25 minutes. A 25-minute drive with any kids is not about you. Trust. Or you feel bad if you make it about you. You're
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'm going to listen to this podcast. Sorry, kids. You still have to find something for them to do for that 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just my kids, but they'll talk all through it or want to have a full conversation. But even that's 50 minutes by yourself during the day, not including your lunch, not including you getting to go to the bathroom, not include you getting coffee, any of those things, right? And you can most jobs you can separate time for yourself to get things done where you
Mm.
can focus on that one task. That's all you're doing, even if for 10 minutes before a meeting, right? Next thing, and I didn't expect this to go this way, but we society still puts, even if a woman is working full time, the general consensus is she's still going to take care of those things as well.
Yeah.
So, and even if it's not, even if you're an egalitarian household, she still feels the weight of what society expects, right? Because generally speaking, talking strictly school, right? Um, who's expected to go to the meetings? Who do the teachers reach out to first? Right? It's usually the mom, right? Who do they expect to volunteer? Right? I volunteer at my daughter's school and it's like, oh my gosh, right? The one day I went and there was another dad there and he was just having lunch with his kid. And it was like, even in how I think about life, like it was a shift even for me. I'm like, yo, this is so sweet. Like, but then it's like, no, he's just being a parent. Like, you
Facts.
see what I'm saying? So it's like we have these roles and these tasks that we think, even if we don't overtly say them, like it's baked into our society that certain people should be do certain things, which is why it's good to intentionally talk through them as a couple and then revisit them.
Mhm.
That's where I'm getting to. Sorry. All the way
Yeah.
around Robin Hood's barn is to be intentional, figure out what works for you, and then revisit it so those little tasks don't fall away or they fall on one person. And then even if they say, man, I'm overwhelmed, the other person doesn't see like, oh, yeah, I'm not doing any of these tasks anymore. And because some people are just they're fixers, so they'll just pick it up. Like, oh, it's getting dropped. Oh, well, our family can't sync, so I'll just pick it up. Like, he's not doing it, so I guess it's on me.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, that was when we were, I probably told this story before, when Isabella was younger and we would travel anywhere, um, all I did was pack my stuff. But my wife, she packed her stuff, she packed Isabella's stuff. Never had a conversation about it for probably at least a year or two. And then she was like, we've never talked about this. She's like, but why am I the one that is packing Isabella's stuff? Do you even know what she needs? And I'm like, well, I think I do. She's like, okay, go pack her bag. So, and that was the test. Like, first of all, I was like uncomfortable in that. And I was like, oh, am I forgetting something? Whatever. So I had to work through like, I have no idea. Well, I have an idea, but I don't know all the details that go into packing a bag.
Right.
And it's like, oh my goodness, I I've left her doing this for 2 years, not even thinking about it. Right. So then it's like a whole life evaluation. What else have I done? What else have I not done? But it's those things to be open to hearing that. Like I could have been a jerk and be like, it's not my role to do that. And now we have a conflict, but I was open to understanding. And there were so many details that I missed. What if Crystal is at work, or what if she's sick and I have to, and I have to send Isabella off, right? God forbid, that was pre-COVID, right? But you know what I mean? What if, all these things pop up and now like I can't even pack a bag and now I'm stressed in a stressful situation trying to figure out little details. But if I knew what they were, I could get them done and that part of our marriage or our life wouldn't be stressed.
Yeah, man. So earlier in what you were saying, you had me thinking, you know, um, a lot of these responsibilities fall on women. Um, and the messed up part about it is, if you really think about it, if you work in an office, how many times do a lot of those responsibilities also fall in on the women of the office, right? Like, even just thinking about it in my office, cleaning out the like the coffee pot at the end of the day, or a lot of times a lot of the men in the office will just walk away from making a fresh pot of coffee, right? Just picking up little odds and ends, cleaning up the counter in the lunchroom and things like that. Even though we have like a daily cleaning service throughout the course of the day, there's a few specific women in my office who have taken it upon themselves to make sure those things are done, because otherwise they wouldn't be done. Like, legitimately, none of the men in the office will do it. I've done some of them. When they see me doing it, they're like, "Oh, really? Like, wow." But I definitely don't do it to the extent that they do, and it's, again, a societal thing. Suffice it to say that it probably needs to change. But yeah, getting back to managing the details in your marriage, there's all these little things, many of them that we have not mentioned. Like, guys, think about the last time you made a doctor's appointment for one of your kids. Oh, can't think of one? I'll wait. No? And how many of us are actually then taking the kids to the doctor's or the dentist office? I do that occasionally, but only upon request, if I'm being honest. I don't know, man. I need to be better. I know that. This is why we're having these conversations, though, right? We're exposing to the world and hopefully helping teach the areas in which we can be better husbands. And like I've said in the past, this is a take action podcast, right? You can listen and learn, but our true intent is for you to take this knowledge and then go do something with it and make your marriage better, which in turn makes your life and your wife's life better. Makes your children's life better, makes your community better.
Yeah, I mean, if you said something about, our society, the societal norms that we have, and needless to say, we need to change that. The the best way that we can do it is show and train our children, right?
Mm,
I heard a quote, I'm probably going to butcher it, but it was like, it's easier to teach, it's easier to train a child than it is to fix the mistakes as an adult,
hmm.
right? So, I mean, for me the other day, my daughter, her throat wasn't feeling good, so she was up all night, right? Um, my wife was basically up all night. I mean, I was up a little bit, but my wife was up all night with her. So for me, it was like she needs to go to the doctor, figure out what's going on. So I called the doctor, I set the appointment, I took her. Now I work from home, so it's a little bit easier than some others. But remembering like we have sick time for a reason and our family is important.
Yeah.
But just in that, I get to mirror to my daughter, like it's both parents' responsibility,
Hmm.
right? You know, mommy was up all night with you. I'm going to take you to the doctor today, right? Or vice versa. Or, you know, mommy might take you to the orthodontist or whatever. So, like, it's trying to show that it's both parents' roles. And if you can teach that, we can teach that both parents do the little things, then they see how to walk that out in their marriages, right? It's not just a concept, like a far away concept, like, yeah, we should both be doing these things. But no, I see like both of my parents did this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that's how we can impact the future.
Yeah. That's good, man. I mean, it's funny because my wife literally just texted me a few minutes ago, asking if I was coming home immediately after I was done recording. Typically, I would work at my business a little bit, but my plan was to come home after we're done here. And the reason for the text is that she's incredibly tired. Um, she worked overnight, didn't get home probably till 3 o'clock in the morning, and now she's up with the kids. Right, so me showing that I'm willing to be up with the kids in the morning, especially on the weekends, because that's when I'm there. Um, just goes to Paul's point that it demonstrates my willingness and my ability to play that role, right? To cook breakfast for them, to cook dinner for them, to do bath time even when mommy's not there, right? Um, I don't, and never have I looked at that as purely a woman's role. It's a parent's role, no matter what the gender.
Yeah. And I think we have to, as husbands, remember that not even on the kid aspect, but just like Brian was saying, even at his job, like certain things we just don't do and we just let our wives do, right? Um, I just comes back to thinking, you know, we're each individual people who have things to do during the day. So how do we make life better when we come together? If we can each split those tasks or take care of tasks, you know, suitable for our skill set, right?
Mhm.
Um, to make life run better, you know, whether it be house stuff or, you know, groceries or getting gas or like just little tasks that we don't think about, um, that can help keep keep the state of the marriage in a positive light, so that you can grow in other areas, right? Because if the little things are taken care of, you don't have to worry about doing the little getting those done, and you can grow further in other areas. And that's what we're trying to convey. The little things are important because you stack on top of those little things to get better and better.
Yeah, it's really about getting to the next growth moment. Is how I look at it, and the more intentional we are about improving ourselves, kind of lends to the attainment of our goals, right? Um, I don't know, man. Is there anything else that you wanted to hit on the topic? I know there's a bunch of more remedial tasks and little details we could have mentioned, but I think the guys know out there where they're lacking.
Yeah, the more thing is come together and agree on what those tasks are within your marriage and then split them up. It doesn't have to be 50-50, but make sure you're contributing, and then make sure you're ready for any tasks that are outside of that normal that may be asked of you or you may see done. And if you can hit those and keep aware, then you'll be able to set a good foundation that your marriage can be built on.
Don't throw a hissy fit when you're asked to do your share. All right, y'all. Thanks for listening. If you got any value out of this episode, we'd like to invite you to rate, follow, and review on your favorite podcast platform.
If you would like to be a guest and want to have your questions answered, hit us up on our website, marriageistoffer.com, or follow us on Facebook, searching Marriage is Tougher Than Woodpecker Lips. Thanks again. This is Paul.
And this is Brian. We will talk to you next time.